This story comes from Helena, a single mother from Alberta, Canada. For Helena, being a single parent was never easy, but she believed she could handle it. What she never expected was how a single, small object could slowly begin to take control of everything she thought she had under control. After the divorce, Helena and her daughter, Anna, moved into a quiet rental home, not far from the city. The house was old but clean, and warm enough. Anna, who was 5 at the time, seemed happy with her new room. She didn't quite understand why her father wasn't coming with them, but Helena did her best to make everything feel normal. One afternoon, while unpacking boxes in the attic, Anna found an old wooden chest. Inside were a worn-out blanket, some children's sketchbooks, and a doll, an old doll, in a white dress, with glass eyes. Anna was immediately drawn to it. "I want to bring her downstairs," Anna said. "What's her name?" Helena asked, smiling. "Clara," Anna replied. "She said she's lonely." Helena brushed it off as imagination. But that night, something began to change. Anna, who used to chatter endlessly before bed, now sat quietly staring at Clara. Sometimes she whispered to the doll, as if Clara was whispering back, and somehow, the air in the house began to feel heavier. Anna's room felt cold and tight, even though the windows were shut tight. But what truly disturbed Helena was how Anna began acting. Older, not in the way she spoke, but in the way she looked at things. Her gaze lingered too long. It was too calm, too knowing. One night, after an exhausting day, her job had gone terribly wrong. The electric bill was overdue and Anna had been fussy all afternoon. Helena snapped. She yelled loudly. She regretted it instantly. But Anna just looked at her and calmly said, "It's okay, Mommy. Clara knows you're tired. She can help, you know." Helena stood frozen. She didn't respond. The next day, her boss suddenly resigned after a scandal that came out of nowhere. A week later, the landlady passed away, and the house was inherited by her son, an old friend of Helena's, who simply said, "Just stay there. It's yours, free of charge." Helena should have been happy, but Anna became even stranger. She spent more time alone. Sometimes she laughed by herself. Sometimes she whispered to Clara, like she was telling her secrets. Until one night, Helena heard footsteps from Anna's room. When she peeked in, she saw her daughter sitting on the floor, holding Clara's hand, and softly saying, "You're happy now, right, Mommy?" Clara helped, "So you won't be so tired anymore." Panic gripped Helena. She snatched Clara, ran outside, and threw the doll into the garbage bin. That night, she didn't sleep. She sat in the living room clutching her phone, waiting. Nothing happened until morning. Clara was back in Anna's room. Helena said nothing. She just stared at her daughter. And Anna, with a blank face but a soft voice, said, "Clara doesn't like being thrown away, but it's okay. Next time you're tired again, she'll help." Helena began to shake, because that's when she realized everything terrible that had happened to the people around her wasn't just coincidence. It all began with one simple wish. "I just wanted everything to be easier." Since that night, Helena never truly felt safe again. Time moved on, but the shadow of what had happened never really left. It's been 5 years since the last time the name Clara was spoken in that house. Anna is 10 now. Her hair is long and straight, her eyes clear and bright. She's grown into a smart, thoughtful girl. There's nothing strange about her anymore. Not anymore. She studies well, joins art activities, even helps Helena cook dinner. To anyone looking in, they appear perfectly normal, happy even. They still live in that same house, quiet and old, tucked between towering cedar trees. But Helena knows that peace is fragile. She's cleaned every corner, locked the attic tight. That doll, wherever it is now, she tried to get rid of it more than once. The last time she burned it until there was nothing left but ash. She saw it herself. But the feeling never left. Some trace of a presence, or maybe a pact, still lingers. Every now and then when Helena's too tired, she finds Anna sitting still, staring at the wall, or drawing, a figure with glassy round eyes and a faint, delicate smile. Anna doesn't say much about it, and Helena doesn't ask, because she knows the more they speak of it, the more likely Clara is to return. And Helena has learned from the past. What terrifies her isn't the sound of footsteps at midnight or laughter in a dark hallway. It's how life can continue, perfectly normal, as long as you follow one small rule. Never let yourself get too tired. Never think of giving up. Because when that moment comes, when your body begins to falter and your mind starts looking for the easy way out, Clara hears it. And she will come, offering help, sweet, soft, and deadly. Now, Helena lives with near military discipline. She sleeps enough, eats regularly, never lets herself lose control. She works hard, but never to the point of collapse. And she watches Anna like she's guarding a secret that must never be uncovered. Because she knows, if someday she ever lets herself think, even just once, I'm tired, I can't do this anymore, Clara might return. And this time, she won't come through the doll. This story comes from a woman named Laura. She's an art teacher at a local elementary school. In her early 30s, she'd just moved to a quiet little town in Alberta, hoping to escape the noise and chaos of Toronto. She thought this place would bring her peace, more space to breathe, fewer things to worry about. But from the very first day she began teaching, something unsettled her. It was not the creaking of the old school building at night. It was not the narrow hallways that smelled of aging paint. It was one student, a little girl named Maya. Maya did not stand out because she was loud or difficult. In fact, it was quite the opposite. She was always quiet, always focused, always seated at the front of the class, and never made mistakes in her assignments. But that was not what made Laura pay attention. What truly made her pause was the way Maya drew. Her drawings were too vivid. The shadows were too precise. The scenes she created felt too real. And the themes were far too dark for a child her age. In one painting, a woman stood alone in the center of an empty room holding a large doll. The doll had a round head, glass eyes, and wore a lace dress that looked worn and old. Laura gently asked, "Who is this?" Maya looked at her for a moment, then answered quietly, "She is Mama's friend. Her name is Eliza." Laura nodded, but something about the way Maya said it made her heart beat just a little faster. In the weeks that followed, Maya continued to draw the same figure. Sometimes Eliza was sitting on a couch. Sometimes she was standing at the end of a hallway. And sometimes she was holding hands with a woman whose face had been smudged out. Not one of those drawings showed any joy. They were cold, still, and empty. Then one morning, Maya walked into class with a fresh scratch on her arm. It was not very deep, but it was clear and recent. Laura asked softly. "Did you fall?" Maya did not answer right away. After a long silence, she finally said, "I am all right. Eliza is watching me." And there it was again. That name. Eliza. Laura could not ignore her curiosity. There was something about Maya that would not let her go. Quietly, she started asking around, mostly older teachers, and finally she reached out to Mrs. Tilley, Maya's former teacher, now retired. When Laura asked if Maya had ever mentioned the name Eliza, Mrs. Tilley's voice changed. It dropped into something deeper, heavier. She said, "Yes, many times. And if you want my advice, stop there." But Laura could not stop. A few days later, she decided to visit Maya's home. It was not unusual in a town like this. New teachers often did home visits, but from the moment she arrived, a sense of unease settled over her. The house stood at the end of a long street, surrounded by tall, aging pine trees. From the outside, it looked neat, peaceful. Maya's mother, Helen, greeted her politely. She smiled, though something behind the smile felt tight. They sat in the living room, talked briefly about Maya's progress, her routines, her talents in art. Then, in a casual voice, Laura asked, "Sometimes Maya talks about someone named Eliza. Who is she?" Helen's expression changed instantly. The smile vanished. Her eyes went blank, and then, still. She spoke so softly Laura had to lean in to hear. "Eliza is not a friend. She is not imaginary. She is something you will never understand, and something you should never call by name." Laura did not know what to say. She made an excuse to leave, and she left quickly. That night, Laura stayed up for hours. She pulled out every one of Maya's drawings she had kept, and only then did she notice something she had overlooked: shadows. In every drawing, there was a faint, almost hidden shadow behind Maya, and the more recent the drawing, the closer that shadow had crept. In the latest one, Maya was shown sleeping peacefully, and Eliza was sitting by her bed. But what made Laura's skin crawl was the detail in the corner of the page. A second figure, not fully formed, as if crawling in, through the cracks of a window. Beneath it, in small, careful letters, were the words, "Eliza is not alone anymore." Laura still keeps that drawing in her desk drawer. She has not told anyone, but since that day, she always keeps the art room well lit. She never leaves Maya alone. And most importantly, she never, ever says Eliza's name again. Because some things are not meant to be acknowledged, and once they know you see them, they come closer. This story came to me directly from Emma, a woman in her early 30s, living alone in a small flat in the heart of London. After a long relationship fell apart, followed by a relentless stream of work stress, Emma found herself sinking into a routine that felt more like survival than living. Each night, she came home to silence, broken only by the hum of the fridge and the flickering buzz of the hallway light. Loneliness was no longer just a feeling, it was a presence. One night, with sleep miles away and her mind restless, Emma began browsing through an online marketplace filled with second-hand goods. She wasn't really looking for anything in particular, just something to fill the empty spaces in her home. Her eyes landed on one listing that felt different. A vintage doll dressed in a faded lace dress. Its eyes, strikingly green, seemed to glow through the screen. The caption was simple: doll number 241, from a private collection, worn but with a story. Something about the doll felt strange. Not cute, not endearing, just watchful. Emma bought the package, which also came with old books and a cracked vase. It was impulsive, but loneliness makes you reach for anything that feels even slightly alive. The doll arrived a few days later. Emma placed it on the shelf near her bed. That night, she actually slept soundly, something she hadn't done in weeks. The room felt less hollow, but peace, as it often does in stories like this, did not last long. Small things started happening. The doll would be slightly out of place in the morning. Once, Emma clearly remembered setting it on the far right of the shelf, but the next day it was on the left, facing the window. She chalked it up to her own forgetfulness. Stress messes with memory, right? But then came the noises. Tiny footsteps across the wooden floor. A soft rustling. A whisper so faint it could have been imagined. Laughter. Low, childlike, and cruel. Not from outside, from inside the bedroom. Emma started sleeping with the lights on. She tied the doll up with duct tape, placed it inside a shoebox, and shoved it deep into the kitchen cabinet. The next morning it was on the floor again, sitting upright, facing her bed. Panic bloomed in her chest like something rotten. That night, she acted. With trembling hands, she wrapped the doll in a garbage bag, placed bricks on top, shoved it all into an old suitcase, and didn't wait for morning. At 3 a.m., she called a cab and headed for the banks of the Thames. Under the cold drizzle of London's dawn, she threw the suitcase into the water. Plung. It disappeared beneath the black surface. "That's enough," she whispered. "I don't care what you are. You're not staying in my home." And then, quiet. No more footsteps, no whispers, no dreams. For the first time in months, the shelf in her bedroom remained empty, and it stayed that way. Weeks passed, then months. Emma went back to work. Life settled. She smiled again. But trauma, like old dolls, rarely stays buried. One cloudy afternoon, while passing by a little antique shop in Notting Hill, she froze. Behind the glass, nestled among porcelain tea sets and dusty frames, was a doll with a faded dress and piercing green eyes. The head was tilted slightly, as if it remembered her. She didn't go inside. That night, Emma dreamed. She was in her childhood room. Toys surrounded her, but none moved, none breathed, except one. The doll sat in the center of the room, glowing faintly in the dim light. Its voice didn't come from its mouth, but from inside her mind. "You threw me away, but you needed me. You still do, don't you?" Emma woke drenched in sweat, heart thundering. She's never seen the doll again. Not physically. But sometimes, when the hallway light flickers before going out, when the closet door creaks open by itself, Emma remembers. Some things don't go away, especially the ones we invite in when our hearts are at their weakest. And doll number 241 is still waiting.